I decided that I'm going to make a refinery.
And let's make the biggest
ever
in the world.
In the world, ever in the world.
Right.
50% more than the biggest.
$20 billion.
$20 billion of investment.
Tell me about it. How many people worked on this?
67,000 people worked on the building of the refinery, and it took us.
This is a size. That's the size of the town where I grew up.
Well, you know, but I mean, that is how we had to actually now, because we are building something. And luckily, let me tell you what you don't know. Luckily for us, we didn't know what we were building. Because if you knew, I was faced with the plan and the drawings all at once, right? I wouldn't have built this refinery. I would have actually chickened out.
Really?
Yes, because I mean, you know, when we started, you know, it's like you started swimming across the ocean. When you get middle of the ocean, you realize that the tide was bad. When you go forward, it's bad. When you go backwards, so you have to walk forward. And that is what we did. We have to just keep working and believing that we will deliver. And what happened when we finish the refinery, things now have turned out to be much more than our own expectations.
The Dangote Refinery IPO is shaping up to be one of the largest initial public offers in the history of Nigeria and among the best ever seen in Africa. Early reports indicate that private investors have already committed billions of dollars in pre-IPO investments, known as private placements, highlighting strong confidence in the project. For many investors, the appeal lies in the possibility of buying shares in Naira while participating in business with significant dollar earning potential through its export operations. So what exactly is the Dangote Refinery IPO? Why are investors across Africa, the diaspora, and international markets paying such close attention? Could this become the most important capital market event in African history? And what does it mean for African wealth creation, industrialization, energy security, and the future of homegrown investments? Today, we break down the opportunities, the possibilities, the numbers, and the long-term implications of a public offer that could open the doors of Africa's largest refinery to millions of potential shareholders. Because this is not just about buying shares, it's about participating in a new chapter of Africa's economic story. There are moments in history when a nation moves from possibility to proof. There are moments when a continent stops asking what it can become and starts showing the world what it already is. This may be one of those moments. Across Africa, a new story is emerging. A story of industrialization, a story of innovation, a story of self-belief, and at the center of that story stands a project that many now consider one of the most ambitious private industrial investments in African history, the Dangote Refinery. For years, Africans have dreamed of seeing world-class infrastructures built on African soil, financed by African vision, and designed to serve African interests. Today, that dream is no longer a vision of tomorrow. It is a reality of today. And now, another chapter is about to begin. The Dangote Refinery is preparing for what could become one of the largest initial public offers ever witnessed in Africa. This is not just a corporate event. This is not just an investment story. This is a moment that could expand conversation about ownership, wealth creation, and Africa's economic future. The interest is immense, the anticipation is growing, and the attention of investors across Nigeria, Africa, and the global diaspora is firmly fixed on what comes next. For the first time in a long time, many people are not just talking about exporting raw materials. They are talking about owning value. They are talking about participating in industrial success. They are talking about building generational wealth through African enterprise. And that's why this movement matters. Because the story of the Dangote Refinery is bigger than oil. It is bigger than petrol. It is bigger than profits. It is a story about possibility, a story about confidence, a story about what can happen when African capital, African expertise, and African ambition come together on a scale the world cannot ignore. Welcome to Strength of Africa TV. This is not just the story of a refinery. This is the story of ownership. This is the story of confidence. And this is the story of Africa's wealth movement.
Strength of Africa TV presents
Dangote Refinery IPO. Africa's wealth moment has arrived.
From the heart of Africa, a vision was born in light. From sand and steel and sacrifice, turning darkness into bright. A refinery rising like a dream that refused to fall. A hand that bought a future, strong enough to hold us all. From Naira dreams to global strings, a new dawn begins to sing, where Africa rises in its power and ownership is king. Oh, Africa, rise and shine, your future calls. The land, it's steel and fire, heart's desire with your legacy.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Depending on where you are at this moment, I'm your host, Adebayo Oladokun, and this is Strength of Africa TV, where truth meets courage, where the past is reawakened and the future of the motherland is reclaimed. Today's episode is titled Dangote Refinery IPO, Africa's wealth moment has arrived. Let's begin. From refining oil to refining wealth, why this IPO matters. If the Dangote Refinery IPO succeeds at the scale many expect, it will represent more than a stock market event. It could represent a shift in the way Africans think about wealth. For decades, many of Africa's largest economic opportunities were either controlled by governments or dominated by foreign capital. Ordinary Africans often participated as consumers. Very few had a chance to participate as owners. This IPO has the potential to change that conversation. For the first time, millions of people may be able to own a stake in one of the most strategic industrial assets on the continent. Because ownership changes everything. When people own assets, they begin to think differently about the future. They think about dividends. They think about capital appreciation. They think about long-term value creation. They think about building legacies. And they think about passing wealth to the next generation. The Dangote Refinery was built to solve a problem that has frustrated Africa for decades. Africa produces crude oil, yet Africa has spent billions of dollars importing refined products. The continent has long exported raw value and imported finished value. That model has cost African economies trillions of dollars in lost opportunities over the years. The Dangote Refinery represents a different approach, an African solution to an African challenge. A facility designed not only to serve Nigeria, but to support energy supply across the continent. That is why many analysts view the refinery as more than a business. They see it as a strategic infrastructure. They see it as a symbol of what African industrialization can look like in the 21st century. And now, the public may have an opportunity to participate in that story. But there's another reason why this IPO is attracting so much attention. The possibility of dollar-based earnings. For years, many African investors have faced a common challenge. How do you grow wealth in local currencies while protecting yourself from global currency volatility? The Dangote Refinery operates in an industry that generates revenue from both domestic and export markets. That creates the possibility of earnings linked to international trade. For many investors, this is not just an investment in a refinery. It's an investment in Africa's ability to generate global value. It is a vote of confidence in Africa's productive capacity. It is a vote of confidence in Africa's future, and the implications go far beyond Nigeria. Imagine a future where African pension funds finance African industries. Imagine a future where diaspora investors participate directly in African infrastructure. Imagine a future where African capital stays in Africa long enough to build African prosperity. That's the bigger story. This IPO is not just about the Dangote Refinery. It is about the possibility of deeper African capital markets. It's about creating more investment vehicles for Africans. It's about proving that large-scale African enterprises can attract large-scale African investments. And if this model works as expected, many others may follow. Today, it is a refinery. Tomorrow, it could be power plants. It could be railways. It could be technology companies. It could be manufacturing champions. It could be the next generation of African global brands. That is why investors are watching. That is why governments are watching. That's why the world is watching. Because this IPO may represent more than a listing. It may represent a new chapter in the economic evolution of Africa. Let's look into Dangote from a small trading firm to Africa industrial titan. To understand why this IPO has captured the attention of investors across the world, we must first understand the story behind the company. Because the Dangote Refinery did not appear overnight. It is the latest chapter in a business journey that began more than 4 decades ago. In 1977, a young entrepreneur named Aliko Dangote started a modest trading business in Kano, Nigeria. The business focused on the importation and distribution of basic commodities such as sugar, rice, cement, and other essential products. At the time, few could have imagined that this small trading operation would one day evolve into one of the largest industrial conglomerates in Africa. But Aliko Dangote had a different vision. He understood something that many people overlooked. The greatest profits are not always made in trading. The greatest value is created in production. So rather than remaining a middleman, he began a long-term transformation from importer to manufacturer, from distributor to producer, from trader to industrialist. It was a bold bet and it paid off. Over the years, the Dangote Group expanded into cement, sugar refining, salt processing, flour, petrochemicals, fertilizer, logistics, energy, and infrastructure. Today, the group operates across multiple African countries and employs tens of thousands of people directly and indirectly. Its cement business became the largest on the continent. Its sugar business became one of the largest in Africa. Its fertilizer plant emerged as one of the world's largest granulated urea facilities. And then came the most ambitious project of them all, the Dangote Refinery. For many years, many experts said it could not be done. The cost was too high. The risks were too great. The logistics were too complex. The scale was too massive. Yet, the project moved forward. Today, standing in the Lekki Free Trade Zone in Lagos, the refinery has become a symbol of African industrial ambition. With a processing capacity of 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day and still growing, it is recognized as the world's largest single-train refinery. Let that sink in. Not the largest in Africa, not the largest in the developing world, the largest single-train refinery on earth. And yet, according to the company's expansion plans, this may only be the beginning. Which brings us to the IPO. The numbers surrounding this offer are nothing short of extraordinary. Market analysts expect the refinery to debut with a valuation of between $40 billion and $50 billion. At the upper end of that range, the company will immediately become one of the most valuable corporate entities ever listed in Africa. To put that into perspective, A $50 billion valuation will represent a significant portion of the entire Nigerian equity market. The scale is unprecedented. The company is expected to float between 5 and 10% of its equity to the public. Even more remarkable is the fact that private placement interest has already surpassed $2 billion before the public offer has officially opened. That level of demand tells us something important. Global investors are not simply buying into a refinery. They are buying into a vision. They are buying into a business model. They are buying into a track record of execution. Prominent investors have already indicated their interest. Some have publicly discussed commitments running into hundreds of millions of dollars. The message from the market is clear. Confidence is high, expectations are high, and the world is paying attention. But what makes this story even more interesting is what the money will be used for. This is not an IPO designed simply to reward existing shareholders. It is an IPO designed to fund growth, aggressive growth, transformational growth, under its Vision 2030 strategy. The Dangote Group plans to expand refineries' capacity from 650,000 barrels per day to an ultimate target of 1.4 million barrels per day through advanced processing technology and strategic partnerships. If achieved, it will further consolidate its position as one of the most important refinery complexes in the world. But the ambitions do not stop there. The group also plans to quadruple its urea fertilizer production. It is pursuing potash and phosphate projects in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is expanding copper refinery operations in Zambia. And it is continuing its drive to build industrial value chains across the African continent. Think about that for a moment. This is not just a Nigerian story. This is an African story. A story of regional integration. A story of industrial expansion. A story of value addition. A story of building African champions capable of competing on the global stage. And to bring this historical transaction to market, some of Nigeria's most experienced financial institutions have already been engaged. Issuing houses and advisors including Stanbic IBTC Capital, Fetiva Advisory Services, and First Cap are reportedly helping to structure the offer. Their involvement underscores the size, complexity, and strategic importance of the transaction. Because this is more than an IPO. It is a test of the depth of Africa's capital markets. It is a test of Africa's investment appetite. And it will become a test of how effectively Africa can mobilize its own savings to finance its own future. From a small trading company in Kano to a potential $50 billion industrial giant, the journey of the Dangote Group is a reminder of what is possible when vision meets execution. And as this new chapter begins, the question is no longer whether Africa can build world-class companies. The question is how many more will follow. Now, Africa's wealth movement, the road ahead. Throughout history, great civilizations have been built not only by people who worked, they were built by people who owned, they were built by people who invested, they were built by people who believed in the future before the future arrived. That's the opportunity standing before Africa today. The Dangote Refinery IPO is ultimately a story about possibility. The possibility of African savings supporting African enterprise. The possibility of African ownership expanding across strategic sectors of the economy. Of course, every investment carries risk. Markets rise, markets fall, companies succeed, companies face challenges. Wise investors always do their research. Wise investors always understand their risk tolerance. Wise investors never invest solely on excitement. But great opportunities also require vision. And it is vision that builds this refinery. It is vision that attracted billions of dollars in capital. It is vision that turned an idea many thought was impossible into a reality the world can see. The true significance of this IPO may not be measured only in billions of dollars. It may be measured in something far more important: confidence. Confidence in African entrepreneurs. confidence in African markets, confidence in African innovation, confidence in Africa's ability to build, to compete, and to win on the global stage. For the African diaspora, this moment carries special meaning. For generations, many members of the diaspora have asked a simple question: how do we participate in Africa's growth? How do we move beyond sentiment and into ownership? How do we become stakeholders in the future we want to see? This IPO may provide one of the most visible answers yet. It represents a bridge between African opportunity and global African capital, a bridge between vision and participation, a bridge between aspiration and ownership, and that may prove to be its most enduring legacy. Years from now, people may look back on this moment and see more than a refinery listing. They may see the moment when African industrialization entered a new phase. They may see the moment when African capital markets took a giant step forward. They may see the moment when ownership became part of the continent's development conversation. They may see the moment when Africans chose to invest not only in companies but in their collective future. When the IPO officially opens, participating is expected to be straightforward for both Nigerian and eligible international investors. Prospective investors will typically need a Central Securities System Clearing System account, CSCS, through a licensed stockbroker. Complete the IPO application process either through their broker or approved digital investment platforms, and submit their subscription along with their required payment before the offer closes. Many stockbroking firms now provide online and mobile application channels, making it possible for investors to participate from virtually anywhere in the world. For members of the African diaspora, the involved issuing houses and regulators are expected to provide guidelines on eligibility, payment options, and cross-border participation. As always, investors should carefully read the official prospectus, understand the risks, review the offer terms, and seek professional financial advice where necessary before making any investment decision. The most important thing is to rely on official information from the company, the issuing houses, the Nigerian Exchange, and the Securities and Exchange Commission rather than market rumors or social media speculation. Let's look at the moment of opportunity: government, accessibility, and the people. This brings us to a critical question. Will this IPO be accessible to ordinary people? Well, it should be, and it must be. If this offer is to become a defining moment in African wealth creation, participation cannot be limited to large institutions and high net worth investors. Teachers should be able to participate. Doctors should be able to participate. Engineers should be able to participate. Traders should be able to participate. Young professionals should be able to participate. Pensioners should be able to participate, and members of the African diaspora should have clear and straightforward channels through which they can participate. Technology makes this possible. Digital platforms can simplify account opening. Online brokerage services can expand reach. Mobile investment applications can remove traditional barriers. Investors' education campaigns can help new investors understand both the opportunities and the risk. This is an opportunity to deepen financial inclusion. This is an opportunity to expand investment culture. This is an opportunity to introduce a new generation of Africans to the power of long-term wealth creation. The diaspora community deserves special attention. Millions of Africans living abroad send billions of dollars home every year. Imagine if even a small portion of that capital could be channeled into productive investments rather than consumption alone. Imagine the impact on industrialization. Imagine the impact on job creation. Imagine the impact on capital formation. Imagine the impact on generational wealth. This IPO could become a template for how Africa mobilizes its own capital, a template for how Africa finances its own development, a template for how Africa turns savings into productive investments. Ultimately, the greatest success of this IPO may not be the billions of dollars it raises. It may be the millions of people it inspires to become investors for the first time. Because when people become owners, they begin to see the future differently. They begin to think long-term. They begin to build wealth. And they begin to see themselves not just as observers of Africa's rise, but as participants in it. That's the true opportunity before Nigeria. That's the true opportunity before Africa. And that's why the world is watching. The story of Africa has never been a story of limitation. It has always been a story of potential, a story of resilience, and a story of ambition. A story of possibility waiting for its moment. Today, that moment may be arriving, not in the form of a speech, not in the form of a promise, but in the form of an opportunity to build, an opportunity to participate, an opportunity to own. Whether you are an investor, an entrepreneur, a student, a professional, or a member of the global African diaspora, one message is clear. The future of Africa will not be built by spectators. It will be built by participants. And as the Dangote Refinery prepares to open a new chapter through its historic IPO, the question is no longer whether Africa can build world-class industries. That question has already been answered. The question now is, who will help own the future that is being built? This is Strength of Africa TV. If you believe in African excellence, African enterprise, and Africa's economic renaissance, share this video, join the conversation, and let us know. Could the Dangote Refinery IPO become the defining wealth creation moment of this generation? Until next time, keep believing in Africa, keep investing in knowledge, keep building the future, and keep standing for the strength of Africa. I'm your host, Adebayo Oladokun, and this is Strength of Africa TV. If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, endeavor to join our membership, and give super thanks. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Rumble. For advert placement, visit us online at Strength of Africa TV. Watch out for the next episode. You don't want to miss it. Until then, tell your own story, because Africa's future is written in African ink. Stay rooted, stay bold, stay African. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode. Bye.
From the heart of Africa, a vision was born in light. From sand and steel and sacrifice, turning darkness into bright. A refinery rising like a dream that refused to fall. A hand that bought a future, strong enough to hold you all. From Naira dreams to global strings, a new dawn begins to sing, where Africa rises in its power and ownership is king. Alright, rise and shine, your future goes.